Hi.
Hey, KayLee.
We're in it. We're still in it, Joe.
Yeah. So, first question for you. So,
Okay.
with the long flight delays and stuff, do you have any lag? You have any jet lag from that or no? Because I know
How about
yesterday was a
this?
long day.
I don't know what time it is. That's where we're at. We're like, who's to say? This could be a breakfast chat. It could be midnight. I am going, let's talk. I don't
Nice,
know. That's my
nice.
honest assessment of where I'm at mentally with what time of day it is.
I
But
understand. Yeah, travel delays are not fun. So,
you know what?
I know it caused us to reschedule this to today. So, hey, I'm glad we could meet today. This
I
is this
do
is good.
find though that airports, I've decided, are the perfect place to get examples of how personality styles get overextended and what
Yeah,
happens to
yeah,
people in that stressful state. So
yeah.
I keep adding examples to the repertoire with which I will use to explain how different styles are affected by stress when you have to deboard a plane multiple times in the
Oh
same
yeah.
evening with 2 different airlines.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God.
very interesting to
I'm
see.
sure. I'm sure.
All that to say, today is not about airplanes or delays. Today is, I think a topic that's gonna feel practical, but I kind of am building this off of a request we got from a listener, if you can
Yeah.
believe that. So
Awesome.
shout out to you know who you are. Thank you for this. When it comes to presenting versus facilitation, I try to think of this as, you're asked to present at the meeting next week. And I go, like, what do people do, Joe? They go pull up their PowerPoint deck, they start building the slides, they maybe rehearse once or twice, right? And then they go into the meeting, they put their slides up, they walk through all the information, people nod, maybe there's one question, and then nothing happens.
Right. Right.
Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's not an uncommon way in which that plays out
That's right. In
from a
fact,
pres
can we establish the floor for presenting? The floor for presenting is you have a slide with every word on it and
Yeah,
you speak every word on the slide. So the worst version of presenting is reading every slide verbatim, being locked into that, not looking for input. So you're giving an energy of no eye contact, because
yeah,
sometimes you could be facing the room but not looking at anyone. So like
yeah,
you don't want anyone to catch your attention because you don't want to be derailed, and you view it as a point A to point B. I got to go from slide one to the blank screen and then I've succeeded. And if
yes,
I get out of there without any questions and without any, disagreement, I succeeded that day. That's like the floor for presenting. You read the slides to the group. And what's the
right,
old joke? This could have been a meeting. I mean, this could have been an
right.
email. This could have been an
Could have been an
email.
email.
The meeting.
Yeah.
That's a great punchline. I butchered the punchline of that one.
You know what? The punchlines are not for you, Joe. I think we just need to
I
acknowledge
know
this.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
not a thing for you.
Improvisation is much more my style than using canned
That's
jokes.
okay.
So, all
Who
right.
needs
So
a
we
punchline?
established the floor. So work.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Where do you want to start with this? Where should we go?
Okay, well, I think the key is to go, what part of facilitation and presenting is different? Because let's be clear, those
Yeah.
are very different things.
Yes.
But I think for the purpose of this, we should focus on how can people utilize some tactics within facilitation practice
Yeah.
that they could pull over to make their presentations more effective.
Okay.
Because for that, how work actually works is getting the people in that room on board or making a decision about the thing you're talking about. And in order to do that, I think people can use facilitation tactics without being an expert in that field.
Yeah. I like that. So we'll hit two
Yeah.
layers here. We'll kind of hit the layer of here's what facilitation is compared to presenting.
Yes.
And even if you've been asked to present, you should always facilitate a little bit because
Yeah.
every presentation has a goal. And if the goal is purely to convey information, you probably don't need a presentation. There has to be more than
Yeah.
just
I
conveyance.
agree.
And then if it's more than conveyance, what is the goal? And then how do you interact with people in a way that facilitates the goal that's beyond just the information on the slides?
Yes, I like that.
Good?
I think that's important. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, okay, let's talk about the difference then, like
Yeah,
specifically, because we're kind of on that framework. I think
yeah.
presenting for me, the first thing I think of is it protects the presenter. It's like,
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes,
it leaves no room for the unknown. Like, there's
yes,
no dialogue that could potentially happen that they don't know what people are gonna say or ask. So, like, "Look, I just gotta click through my 7 slides, grab a seat, and we're outta here," type of thing.
yeah.
And even with the best of intentions, they're protected in some way. Does that make sense when I think of it that
Yeah, can we go back to a recent episode on Scarf, the model? Because I think it's a nice
Yes.
callback. If you think of status, your status, right? You don't lose status when you present because you look competent because you're simply conveying what you know. So status can be, you can lose status when somebody asks a question and
Mm.
you know the answer, or they take you off track and you fumble through things. I mean, years ago I went to a presentation on how to use the one software I never liked was the Microsoft database software, Access, I think it
Oh,
was
okay.
called at the time.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
take an Access course, and I had very specific needs because I understood Access, but not really well. The poor
Mm.
facilitator, the poor trainer, presenter, not facilitator. When I
Okay.
took this person off track with a question, they couldn't answer it because they only knew how to deliver this, how to use
Yes.
Access through my little script. And it wasn't their fault. They were set up like that. They weren't experts in
Right.
Access. They were actually experts in training Access, which is different. So, status.
Hmm.
Certainty. If I know I go from slide 1 to slide 15 with no interruptions or variables, I have
Mm.
certainty. And then autonomy, right? I'm controlling it. If you take me off of my track, you're interfering with my autonomy. I can't control the outcome here. So that's really three threats that people might feel when they're presenting and you interrupt them with a question. You start messing with their flow and they feel like the threat of, oh my God, I wasn't ready for this.
Is there something in that autonomy, just as you were saying that, it made me think about, like, some people just wanna portray themselves as really smart, you know?
Yes, yes,
So they
yes.
would that
The
connect to the
status and
autonomy
autonomy
too?
connection.
Yeah, maybe
Right,
maybe that's
right.
what it is.
Yeah,
Like the
if you derail me from my autonomy of getting from point A to point B, you hurt my status and you've messed with the certainty and probably relatedness. You've embarrassed me in front of a group now. People will feel threatened and embarrassed if they pause, like people who are uncomfortable with silence or they're afraid to say, I don't know. So they fumble and stumble through it. And
Mm,
then that whole thing kind of collapses as like it was a disaster. Not to mention
yeah.
people have natural fears of public speaking.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said it on here before, but it is the number 1 fear in the world
Right.
over
Exactly.
death.
Yeah.
Death is number
Right.
2.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always tell people, I'm like, "Look, that means people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy."
Right.
Like,
Right. Because
that is a
because you know
very
why?
true
Because
realization.
if you die, no one's laughing about you in the cafeteria later that day.
I'm just like
So people think when it's the self-consciousness of like I butchered a public speaking engagement and now people are making fun of me somewhere somehow, which is
right.
there's a little thread of like worrying about what other people think at all. It's like even in your most vulnerable moment where you have a rough day presenting or facilitating, it's okay. You're human and there's no shame in having a bad day. And don't worry about what people think or say about it. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So we have this fear of public speaking combined with I don't want to give up the reins of the meeting. I want to just present and charge to the end. So that's kind of presenting. And it's not always that
Yes.
rigid. Some people think they're facilitating by saying any questions,
Yeah,
right?
I
And we
don't want
know
that.
that's not facilitation. So
No,
should we
because
talk a bit about the elements of facilitation, how it might be different than presenting?
yeah, okay, let's get into
What do you
that
think?
because I was trying to think of a clever way to spin it so I sound smart, Joe. Just kidding. It's too late for that. But if I'm just trying to play off of that, if we're saying that, a lot of times the way presenting feels is to try and make us look like we're smart. We have a plan. This is the thing
Yeah.
that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But facilitation is about making the room smarter.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
about it is no longer about you. It is about
Yeah.
the people in the room
Yeah.
and achieving a thing that we are all trying to do together. You're just steering. You're
That's
not
right.
even driving the car. You are steering it. We are keeping things on a track that leads us to the outcome we're trying to get to, but you're getting the people in the room to come up with the idea. You're getting
Yes.
the people in the room to say the thing. And
Yeah.
I don't wanna I say that and it make it sound simple. It isn't. There's a reason some of us have been doing this for 20 years and are still trying to figure out the nuances of to be really great facilitators. But there's something in there that a leader who's presenting at a meeting next week can just maybe just even start with that mentality of going, "What can I do to make the room feel like they're a part of this decision versus me just dictating the slide?"
Yes. Yes.
Does that make
So,
sense?
one idea that comes to mind, I love what you did there, by the way. And would you agree with this first? Because I want to say
Okay,
two things. One is
okay.
pure presentation is 190 to 100% me talking and you receiving.
Yeah, I
And
go
then
70 usually, yeah, 70%, I'm with you. Yeah.
well, presenting could be 90% presenting,
Oh,
right? It
could be.
could
Yes,
be. Like,
yes,
the
yes,
somebody who's really worried can be presenting almost 90%, 100% of the time.
yes.
So, maybe a presentation with good interaction is 70% with 30% interaction. Then when you get to really deep, like really expert facilitation, where you're truly bringing people through something, it might be 70 or 80% of the group interacting and only you talking 20 or 30% of the time. Is that fair?
I mean, I think so. I think it's close. I'm trying to I wanna be credible to all the people that have been through a session with me before where I told them 60/40 is your most ideal training split,
Yeah.
meaning, like, if the trainee, for example, is talking 60% of the time, you're
Yeah.
doing your job well.
The
That
trainee, the audience.
Yes,
Yes, I
yes,
got you. Yeah, in
yes.
fact, that's what I started doing the last couple of years. Like, I always did it more naturally as I became as I became a facilitator at all, because I was a
Mm,
trainer. I started out as a trainer. I was dispensing
mhm,
expert knowledge about systems. You can't
mhm.
facilitate systems as much as you can facilitate system knowledge a little bit, and we don't have to talk about that today. But I was a lot of talking at people, and then I started to make it more interactive. Then I truly started to become a facilitator over the years, to the point where the last 10 years, call it, I actually have a little spread. I'll take a little spreadsheet and go along my slides, and I will map out slides like back of the napkin kind of thing, with like, this slide is 5 minutes of presenting, this slide is 15 minutes of activity. And I will check my activity levels to make sure I'm always on that, never more than 50%. Absolutely. But very often I find myself at 70% audience, 30% me. Sometimes 40%, 60% audience, 40% me, but it's never 50-50, and it's certainly not all audience. I got to guide them. But that's
Right.
my check for a good facilitation.
Yeah,
Um,
and
but what I
there's
wanted to say about how to start is, if we want to give people like the one tip, it's not even one of our tips to take away. This is sort of like the first thing you could do tomorrow to be a better presenter where it feels more facilitated is state the objective and ask people, what questions do you have about our objective today? Does that sound right? Is that what do we agree that this is where we're going? And notice the language there. I learned this from a really great facilitator. You don't say, do you have any questions?
yeah,
Because do you have any questions is a yes or no question. You say, what questions do you have? And then
about
people
a
might,
thing.
yeah, what questions do you have about our agenda? And people go, oh, I have a question. So it's a little Jedi mind trick that works to that extent psychologically, where it's not a yes or no question. So it's a nice little tip to get people going. So start out by engaging the audience within the first 2 or 3 minutes. That's my first idea around how to be more facilitative than
Yeah,
sort of presenting.
I think that's totally fair. Let's stay on the question train then,
Yeah.
'cause I'm trying to think about other ways. Here are some of my favorite, if you're presenting, but you want to create engagement within
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of my favorite questions are, what is your biggest concern about this particular piece of content? Like
Yeah.
insert X here, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it
Yeah.
is on the
Yeah.
slide. So you're specifically asking the audience, what is your biggest concern about what we're looking at here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people will be hesitant to ask that because they're, I don't want to hear what your concern is. I didn't
Yes.
prepare. I don't know
Yes.
what it could be. And this is where like the confidence part has to come into play,
Yes.
where they might share concerns. You are not going to have the answers to all of those concerns, but that's not the point. The
Yes.
point is to identify them, to take them, to write them down, to go, "That's a good one. I'm gonna add that to the list." So if you stop worrying about solving whatever issues come up that you aren't prepared for, just take it down as content. Just go, "This is information that's gonna help us prepare moving forward." So I love that question. Another one kind of along that line is something like, "What what will make this fail if we're not careful?"
Mm.
Or what's a roadblock that we're not seeing here that could get in the way that could prevent us from achieving this thing?
Hmm.
Like, when you start asking questions like that during a presentation, I think that also speaks to your, I don't know, your strategic mindset. Like, doesn't that
Sure.
start to give a perception of a person too, Joe, that's really beneficial to them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Think,
I
you know?
like those a lot. I would add. I always do this. I add a wrinkle of because of my appreciative inquiry slash dream frame approach with this stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to start with, what are you most excited about? What we just discussed. So what's exciting to you, and what are you concerned about? And then I would sort of say, you know, like, what are the keys to our success and what are the threats that might get in the way? So I kind of always lead, not in a Pollyanna way, but in much more of like, try to inspire the action of like positivity to say, what are you excited about first? And then to balance it. And we've had these conversations before. I tend to always think of that question. So you joke with me on it. Like,
I'm Joe, I'm only laughing because it just always reinforces to me that you're just a much nicer person than me. Because 'Cause I'm always
it's,
like, "Look, address the concern." Go like, "What do you see as the problem in
look,
here?"
I
You
I'd love
always
to
go
take
like,
credit for that. Unfortunately, you're an amazing person, so I don't think I win
"Oh
that
my
competition.
gosh."
I think the difference, honestly, the difference is probably much more about like my own insecurities in the past of like not wanting to face the negative stuff as easily. So I always brought
Okay.
the positive first. And then I learned about appreciative inquiry. So it became ingrained in like, let's always start with strengths.
I
But
know
you got
that,
to
and
get
it
to the
sounds
messy stuff too. You got to get to the messy stuff too. So it's both sides. It's both sides. But yeah,
I'm
that's
just
funny.
trying to envision the last executive team I worked with walking in there and saying to this particular individual, like, "Well, what excites you about this?" And I it's such a great point, but I could just see it on their face, the response you get in that way. But I think what you're saying is so important because there's ways to touch on questions like that depending on the room and the
Yeah, the
audience,
context. The
right?
context
Yeah.
matters, right?
Yeah,
Like, what do we,
definitely.
the one thing we're going to struggle with this topic is we're trying to cover presenting in general.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
super
tough
tough.
because
Yeah,
sometimes we're presenting a strategy. Sometimes we're presenting a new product opportunity. Sometimes, so the context matters. But I want to try to generalize that in any case, you could always ask people, what is appealing to you about this? And then you could say, what are you concerned about?
yeah,
So what's appealing versus excited? Because excited may not fit the context, but what's
sure.
appealing? Hey, I really like this. And what are you concerned about? I'm concerned about that. And then what are the most important things we need to do well to be successful? So what are those positive success factors? And then what do we have to look out for so we don't fall flat here because we don't want to land on our face?
Yes.
And the order does matter because the cycle, if we only ask the negative questions, we can create a little fear. And the order gets you in that mindset of, oh, yeah, we're going to succeed here, but let's just
Mm,
also think about what might get in our way. So that's a little variation of like
I
context
like it.
matters. So you're not always going to be excited about a presentation. So I totally get it.
That's fair.
I don't want to
Like,
sound
what do
like
you
a
say?
buffoon where you're like, what are you excited about the layoffs that are coming this week?
Oh my
But
gosh.
you could
Yeah,
simply say, look, we have to cut some team members, and here's the approach that we're taking. Are we doing the best we can to honor people here?
yeah.
And
To con
then, you know what I mean? Are we doing the best we can to honor
Yes.
people and be fair? That's a good question to ask them because then it's a dangerous question. It's like, no, I think we suck and we're doing a bad thing here and we shouldn't let people go. So you're opening the door to that. But I don't want to
Yeah.
sidetrack it with too much
Okay.
context. Keep
Yeah.
going with the topic here because I think there's a lot more to cover.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting into the nitty-gritty now, though.
Go.
Like, let's make it practical because I keep thinking our podcast is called How Work Actually Works,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so I
yeah.
go,
Yeah.
if I'm sitting there listening, I'm going, "Okay, so what does that mean for how I build my slides next week?"
Yeah.
Or whatever the
Perfect.
case.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just gonna throw out a bunch. This is just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Do not turn around and look at the slides as you're talking about them. These
Oh
are
my
just some
god. I
you know
know.
how people so we turn around and we
Yeah.
look at the thing?
Yeah.
Even as a presenter, take the facilitator trick of you are there to engage the audience, the whatever's behind you wouldn't matter if it wasn't there. You
That's
know,
right.
like, that's how much
That's
you
right.
wanna be s at least that's how I think of it. Like, it wouldn't matter if I had the PowerPoint or not.
That's right.
It's what I'm saying and the questions I'm asking, how I'm engaging the audience, that's the most important part. So stop turning around and going, "As you can see," you know, for the people who are just listening, I did a turnaround moment.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
exactly.
Yeah.
As you know, part of my hiring process when I manage teams in training and development, you couldn't hire a trainer or a facilitator without seeing them in action.
Oh,
So
totally
part of the
agree.
part of the interview process was come back and do a 15-minute something. You decide, but
Yeah.
do something for us. And one guy came in and my couple of people in the room to be his audience, and it was a little conference room facing a screen, and he turned around and faced the screen for 15 minutes and didn't look at us
No.
once
With his back to
with
you.
his back to the audience. And I'm thinking, like, what an important, first of all, how important is that to the interview process to not hire the wrong person who thinks that's the
True.
thing you present? But
Yeah.
that's an example of like, it also feeds to, by the way, what's on your slide. Because if you need to turn your back, you have too much stuff on your slide.
Yeah.
A good rule of thumb is, and I used to do a whole presentation of PowerPoint do's and don'ts. I would make the perfectly bad slides as the example
Yeah.
to show people how
Yeah.
these slides suck. But, 2 or 3 bullets with 4 to 6 words is enough on a slide. The slide should inspire the talking point. It should tell you, it should trigger your memory. You should not be reading the slides. You could have slide notes. You can print your slides with the slide notes. If you're uncomfortable, glance down at that. All of that is better than reading a slide. Never read the whole slide
Yeah.
unless it's instructions. If the slide is literally instructions for what you want people to do in the next few minutes because you're inviting them to a conversation, of course, read the
Mhm.
instructions. Other than that,
Yes.
don't read the slides.
And for the people, hearing this thinking, "Well, I have to present dashboards with a bunch of graphs and
Yeah,
data, so
yeah,
sorry, Kaylee, but I do have to have a lot of content on the
yeah,
slide."
yeah,
I would say, "Beautiful, do it," but leave it up there, sure, but it's the story you're telling along with that data that gets
yeah,
articulated verbally, not on the slide.
yes,
So
yes,
you're letting people view I'm like, "Put the content, put the picture, whatever." It's being really comfortable and clear about the story that you're telling, they're only getting because you're saying it.
yeah.
It's like they're getting access to this insight because you're the one delivering it. Like, that holds value in a presentation
That's right.
versus just on the graph.
Yeah, and even showing, a good because this applies to so many different roles. I mean, I used to work with the CFO of a big health system to help
Yeah,
him with his presentations because he
yeah.
recognized that I could help make his presentations more engaging by using metaphors and visuals instead of showing the dashboards.
Hmm,
So that was one idea. It's like you don't always have to show the dashboard. You simply have to show the story of the dashboard and tell the story and hand out the page of the dashboard for people to follow along. Because if you put a big screen up there with all kinds of data and boxes, nobody's following anyway. Um, there's some tricks you could do. We probably know how to do this more than most people, where the like Microsoft PowerPoint has a morph function where you could take a big dashboard, then you can make a next slide and then zoom in and cut out a piece of it. And then if you morph slide 1 to slide 2, it'll zoom in and
yes.
it'll look like you're doing an interactive movie of the dashboard. That's more advanced for people who do our kind of work, but it's a cool way to show a dashboard. I would never show a busy dashboard as my only visual. I used before PowerPoint could do that 20 years ago, I would overlay screenshots. So I would
Yeah,
take a zoomed in screenshot and lay it over the top and highlight
yes.
what I was pointing at. You just can't show this messy thing.
How about the clicker? If people
Yeah,
could please stop treating this like a TV remote,
I know.
that
You
would
don't have
be
to point at the screen.
fantastic.
The screen doesn't receive the signal. So don't point at the screen. You're not like grandpa trying to change the channel.
I'm being really
The,
picky
the
here now,
thing
Joe,
goes in
but
every direction. You just hold it down and press the button. You don't have to point it
they
anywhere.
they shouldn't know you're holding it. How
I
about that?
know. I
That's
know.
part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I
That's
first got an Apple Watch, I did a whole presentation using my watch as the remote. I would literally touch my
cool.
Apple Watch and advance the slides. That was my nerd that was my
That's
nerd
pretty
day when I
nerdy,
pulled.
Joe.
Yeah, that was pretty nerdy. But yeah, like that's a great tip. So,
Is
okay,
it?
let's
I
keep
don't
going
know.
with practical because we have a lot of,
Okay.
this might be a little bouncing around because it's hard to organize. Like, we don't want to give you a how to present. It's much more about picking up on tips that will make your presentations feel more facilitated. So, what
Yeah.
else?
That's what I'm trying to think of is more the facilitation things, like positioning.
Yeah, yeah,
Where you stand in the room
yeah,
has great influence on the learner's ability to retain information as a facilitator, right? So
yeah.
I don't know about you, but on average, I change positioning every 7 minutes in some way, shape, or form.
Mm,
So even in a room, even in a boardroom where there's not a lot of space,
yes,
just moving from one side of the TV to the other side
yeah,
during a key moment, during a moment during the presentation where you want to get some actual feedback or engagement,
yeah,
asking the question and then shifting your body at least the
yeah,
6 feet, it realigns people's eyesight. It actually can help
yeah,
refocus.
yeah.
Does that
So somebody taught me something similar. Um, like, let's say you have some space and you're in front of a larger room of people.
Yeah.
If you're going over three different things, stand in spot one for the first thing.
Yes,
So you
yes,
could
I
say,
do
I want to
that.
talk about
Yep.
chickens. And then you move to another spot and say, now I want to talk about dogs. Then you move to a third spot and talk about cats. And guess what?
Yes.
If you go all the way back to the first spot, people will remember that's chickens because that's
Yes,
where you
they do.
stood. So you've
Yes,
created bullet points in real time. Like, you're creating a physical
with your
map of
body.
what you're talking about, and people follow you. And to the same extent, when you want to emphasize a point, slow down or say it with a different case. See, droning is what gets people disengaged. If you get up there and say, today we're going to walk through 3 slides and I'm going to tell you everything I need to know, and this is slide one and this is slide, your voice is an instrument. So take the moment to say, now I want to share with you the most important thing, and that's this. Give it time to sit there, right? Let them absorb the most important thing and look around and make sure they're picking up on it. Because your job as a facilitator is to notice and maybe restate some things if you see some quiz, some whimsical, not whimsical,
Quizzical.
confused looks.
Yes.
Quizzical? What's the word?
I think so it is today, okay?
Yeah,
That's good enough.
exactly. So if
Yep.
people look like they're not tracking, that's your signal to maybe reposition what you just said. Because I've learned as a facilitator, I'm always scanning, especially in a small group. If
Yes.
it's a meeting with 10 or 12 people, I'm really checking and adapting in real time. I'm not just getting it out there.
And what do you say in that moment? Because 'Cause I'm trying to think that's such a good call out, but what I would say if I noticed
Yes.
someone they do the head tilt, they're maybe
Yeah.
just slightly you
Yeah.
see a note of concern,
Right.
I call them on it respectfully.
Oh, yeah. You can do that.
I will say
Absolutely.
something like, "I just wanna pause because Joe, I just wanna make sure that you are on board with what I'm saying, and I just wanna make sure I'm not missing anything, and I have a
Yeah.
feeling you might have a perspective."
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
right, just
Easy.
a statement like that, I don't think
Easy.
anyone can be
Yeah.
pissed off for saying that. They go,
Yeah.
"No, no, no, I'm good," and I go, "I knew it. You were my biggest fan. Next."
Right.
And then
Exactly.
I move along. Yeah.
The way you say it is really important.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Cool.
maybe this is the right time for this because I don't want to forget it. And that is, um, when you ask a question, wait for an answer. The absolute panic I see people go through when they ask a question and it's silent. I promise you, I will wait 10, 15. I will wait the rest of the meeting. I have no fear. I have no, and the funny thing is,
I
when you
just
do this for a
yeah.
long time, people
Yes.
know not to screw with me because if there's a moment of silence, I will say out loud, "Hey, folks, I have all day to wait for you to answer, so I'm going to wait for somebody to answer." And that's important, especially when you're facilitating and you need the audience's input for something. Do not rush past it and fill in the blank yourself because people just want it to end, so they talk over their own question. Slow down, pause. Here's the one rule of thumb. However long you think it is, it's probably only 10% that long, meaning what feels like 30 seconds is 3 or 4 seconds. It's not, moments of silence are not that they're not that long. You're just, it's exaggerated in your mind because you're fearful of it.
People are uncomfortable with
Yes.
silence.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Let the room breathe.
uncomfortable with it. It is like first date syndrome of
Yes.
not like
Yes.
for some of us, that was a long time ago. But
Tell me about
where
it.
you go, we can't it's like we gotta fill the space
Yes.
with nonsense or stuff that isn't
Yes.
actually relevant. You sit there and go, "Wait, like, do you have like how about this weather? Like, do you have a mom? I have a mom." And we just babble on.
Do you have
Whereas
a mom? I have a mom. I'm sorry, but I was hatched from an egg. Um, all right,
right? So
so
just it's the pause, the
yeah, yeah.
power of the pause.
Well, now we're talking about like these moments, right? I have another moment for you. Have you? And I
Okay,
want.
okay.
Have you seen this moment where somebody is they put something out there, they get a really good opportunity from the audience to take it further, and they blow right past it.
Yes. Yes.
Ah.
Good one.
Like they don't want to, they don't react to a beautiful moment to go deeper, to expand. It's like the audience is engaging you and you go right back to your slides. I've seen that happen to people and I just, oh, the beautiful moment dies on the vine. It was right
Yes.
there. That's true facilitation. It's noticing those moments and saying, you know what, KayLee, that's brilliant. Let's talk more about that. Tell me, invite them. Say, tell me more about that. What did you notice and why did that happen? Like, get them engaged. Ask other people, what do you think is going on here?
I love that. Okay, you said 2 things there that are a really good tip.
Yeah,
One is
yeah.
the redirect.
Yes.
So I've even done you can even use this if you don't know the answer to the question, okay?
Yes.
You're
Yes. Yes.
presenting, you're already fearful to pause and ask, but you do it
Right.
anyways because Joe and
Right.
Kaylee told you to. So you say to the group, "Well, are there any concerns about this? What specifically on this topic do you have any opinion?" And you get a question and you have a moment of, "Shit, I'm not really sure what the right response is." It's
Yeah.
called a redirect. You say, "You know what? I think that's an important point. Before I give you my opinion, I really wanna open the floor to hear what everyone else in the room thinks,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's more important to hear where the room's at versus me at this point."
Yeah.
Honestly, it's
And
a
that works.
redirect back.
That works for that scenario. It also works when you have a great answer, and I'll tell you
Yes,
why. In my
yes,
opinion, right? I know the answer sometimes, and I still redirect only because I want to use the knowledge in the room, so that because I always like to say in a today our goal is to help each other learn and grow because we do learning type facilitation.
sure.
So in my case, in your case, it's usually, hey, we're going to all learn something from each other, not just me in front of the room. So
Yes.
in a professional facilitation where you're leading a presentation, you could still say something like, "Hey, I'm going to offer my perspective, but I want to get multiple perspectives in the room." So when a question comes up, I'm going to say, what do you guys think?" I'll tell you what I think after. So you can, and also you could put a pin in things because I think some people will say, "Well, I have to answer this question. I don't know. Can I just say I'll get
Mhm.
back to you?" And of course you can, because that's the fear factor of I'm going to blurt out an answer. I'm going to hem and haw and bullshit an answer. No, just say, hey, I don't know. That's a great question. Let me get back to you. And put it in the parking lot as like a next to do after the meeting kind of thing.
Yes. And that is so important because what do you
Go,
think?
what's so important? The parking lot or what?
Yes.
It's commitment to get back to people. You can't let things just disappear. If you say I'll get back to you, you got to get back to people.
Okay, and also why I just did that, Joe, was to show that you don't even have to have a clever question to keep the
Yeah.
conversation going.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can literally
Yeah.
say to someone, "And that is important because,"
Yeah.
and they'll fill it in. You know what I mean?
I was
People
like,
will
I hope I get this right because
No, I
Kelly
know.
is going to judge my response here.
Well, this is it. Even in an unplanned situation,
Yeah,
if you leave
exactly.
like a fill in the blank, I have literally said to people, and then looked
Yes,
at them like, and they
yeah,
will.
yeah.
Because they're uncomfortable with silence, they will talk. They will fill it in to
Well,
keep
you
the
made me
conversation
think of
going.
something else like that from that. Let's say I gave you a mediocre answer. How do
Okay.
you honor that and provide a better answer as a facilitator?
Yes. So if you're coming back and you're going, "Well, I think you keep the parking lot so that people feel heard." Okay. And
Yeah,
then you stop
yeah,
there. And I feel like there's more. Then I'm going to go, "Yeah, that's the starting point because what happens when you actually do that?"
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
It's the dive into the next layer of the thing that they're saying.
Yeah. You show them that they got it partially right and you're honoring it and then you're embellishing, right?
Yes.
So this is a tough one, and I've done this, and I don't know exactly how I do it. But I want to hear yours because I'll give you mine afterwards. What if
Okay.
somebody presents the wrong information? They say something that you don't agree with. It's like, nah, we should never really do that. What do you do there?
Okay, wait. Is it wrong information, like the data is incorrect, or that I disagree with their opinion? Because I feel like that's
Well,
different.
it's more than an opinion because I'm thinking of facilitating something where somebody presents something that's like an outdated approach, and we just don't do that kind of thing anymore. You know,
So their
like somebody
solution.
says, you say, how do you give feedback? And you go, ooh, compliment sandwich. Tell them something they're good at, then tell them what they're doing wrong. How do you tell somebody a compliment sandwich is a stupid idea in 2026?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I say, but I don't necessarily want people to follow this because it might not be the right way to.
Go ahead.
But because this happens to me, because I do workshops specifically on how to give feedback,
Yeah,
that is something that happens regularly.
I know.
And okay, my style is when they're like, I just always go by the sandwich method. And I go, you know what? That is exactly the thing that we used to train 25 years ago. And so I can see why it's still in effect today, right? It's been
Yeah,
around a really
yeah,
long time. So what I want to do is maybe bring us into the new way of doing things that has been proven to blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah. So it's
yeah,
a little bit of humor in there,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
also I could see how that could be offensive maybe,
yeah,
but I literally call it out. I'm like, "Oh, you're right. That was brilliant when we taught it 25 years ago, and things
yeah.
have changed a little bit from then. So I'm gonna challenge you to step outside of that
That's pretty
thinking today."
gentle. I think
Is
that
that
works.
okay?
That's pretty
Uh,
gentle. That's pretty gentle. You
yeah.
know, I think it's really hard. For something like that, I'd probably say something similar. I think I've said something like, um, "Here's what I've learned about the compliment sandwich. I've learned that
Okay.
people get used to that technique and realize that it's only a way to get to the bad stuff. So I've replaced it with this." So it's
That
sort of
sounds
like,
better.
you know.
Sounds I like that one better. I do.
Um, you have a lifetime license to use that one anytime.
I'm gonna.
You know what it
I'm
is?
going to
It's
use it.
like, look, part of my background is avoiding conflict. I'll be honest with you.
Hmm,
Meaning, like, one of my challenges was not being assertive and then avoiding conflict. Unfortunately, one of the skills you develop is how to be very diplomatic with stuff like that.
hmm.
So I don't think it's a flex to say I do that well, as much as it's a coping mechanism to not get into conflict. So I craft really clever ways to avoid, really sort of like slamming a bad idea.
Right.
And it pays off in the long run as a technique because it is a very diplomatic way to do it. But unfortunately, it comes from a place of lack of assertiveness. So you're probably more assertive and good for you. You haven't had to be as diplomatic as I have. So maybe I've learned a few things about my own diplomacy that didn't pay off in some scenarios in my
Hmm.
life, but pay off in my training and development stuff. That's just
Oh,
being
I bet
honest.
it did. No, I'm sure it did. Even I'm trying to think if it wasn't specific to a topic that we are
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
familiar
yeah.
about,
Yeah,
and
just
someone
right.
just brings a difference of opinion in whatever it
Yes.
is that you are presenting
Yeah.
on next week.
Yes.
A good place to come back to is win-win thinking.
Yeah.
So if someone says something that's really um, conflict combative,
Yeah.
counterattacking,
Yeah.
you can always come back and go, it seems like we're coming at this from different places.
Yes.
But I believe we can actually find a third alternative that's probably better than what either of us are bringing to the table
That's
currently.
great. I
Like,
like
I'd
that
be
a
willing
lot.
to explore that if
Yeah.
you would,
Yeah.
just something, do
And
it
that's
like
also
that.
when you can use the audience, not to bash the other person as much as to
Sure.
to develop consensus.
Yeah.
To say like, "Okay, I understand where you're coming from. What are some other perspectives in the room?" And then the
Yeah.
room energy kind of takes over with people start to see, well, there's a majority that think this is the right approach,
Yeah.
because I had a work from home conversation long before we worked from home a lot. This was like 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, work from home was a hot topic of like, no, I need people here in the building.
Yeah.
So I
Come
opened
full
it up to the
circle.
group. I advocated for work from home, and I didn't want to be the authority on that as a facilitator. So I simply made the room debated it, and it was a much richer conversation than me arguing with one guy who says nobody should work from home.
I think that works. I think there's
Yeah.
okay, so there's lots of options in there. What if we hopefully we've said something that's of value to people as they look back on it because it's more of a chat. But let's try and
Yeah.
get our 3 T's then. Let's do like the 3 a tip, tactic, tool that
Yeah.
makes your presenting more impactful using facilitation tactics. Is there anyone that comes to your mind right off the top? I have one if you don't.
Yeah, you said it. You said it earlier. I think we're really
Okay.
close on the numbers. It's the
Yeah.
70-30 thing. If you're
Yes.
talking 70% of the time, it's really 70 plus is a presentation. Less than 70% starts to be facilitation. When you're a real expert facilitator where you're truly it's like your day job, you're at 80-90% not talking, honestly. I've done it.
Mm.
I've done it where I'm talking 20% of the time over the course of 2 days and you think, "How's that possible?" Well, I'm not talking and then they're talking. I'm putting them in a scenario where they interact for 20 or 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
the time works out. I talk for 5, they interact for 45. That's a 90-10 split.
Yes. But what you're saying is for the people who are mainly doing presentations,
Yeah.
the if it makes sense that you're talking 70% of the time, but to leave space, which is kind of
Yeah.
okay, this is my tip then, which leads into 2,
Go.
is to ask yourself, what what part of this topic do you need the room to wrestle with?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Decide in
so
advance.
yes, to really think about out of this 60-minute presentation you're doing, there's a section in here that I really need the group to wrestle with this. And that's the part you want to get real clear on in your own head so that you can, at that moment, use the questioning tactics, use the pause, move your body to a separate area. Right? I think that's, even if you only do that for that one part of the presentation, it'll make it more impactful.
And can I want to tweak that too to
Yeah,
say
tweak it.
maybe you don't have a meeting that you have to make such a high impact decision or you have to wrestle with the topic, then make sure in any presentation you start out with a question at some point in the first 5 minutes. You
Yeah.
find somewhere in the middle to engage people with another question or interaction. And then near the end, you create some kind of engagement interaction so that no matter what, 3 times along the way might be your 10%, 10%, 10%, so you get your 30% interaction and 70% talking. Give that a shot.
You know what? That then leads into, we didn't plan this, but nice transition into my third tip then, especially when it comes to presenting, it is not just about clarity of a topic.
That's right.
I would encourage people to look for commitment as well.
Yeah, like why
Commitment
are we
from
here
the
to begin
audience.
with? Why do we
So
why are we meeting to begin with?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So no matter what the topic, it isn't just about clarity or giving information. You want to get clear on what is the commitment you want from them, no matter what the topic, which leads into what you just said about question, beginning, middle, end. We
Yeah.
didn't even plan that, Joe. Nailed it.
Nailed it. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, even the most look, the ones that I always wrestled with were finance presentations because they're finance heavy. People tune out. If you're presenting financial information, what is the audience supposed to do with that? Are they supposed to understand it and appreciate it? Are they supposed to communicate it to someone else? Are they supposed to take action on it? Be clear on what the goal is so that you can drive towards something other than head nodding of like, yes, message received.
Right. Make the room smarter.
That's right. Yeah. So I think beautiful topic. Take the slides from presentation to interaction. The speaker gives up control and is open to the possibilities in the room. Um, Getting towards something other than completing the task of delivering the information. And you said it really well. Instead of just clarity, we get commitment and we get action. So nice little bow. Well done. Good stuff.
Ditto. Sounds good to me.
All
I
right.
will
Well
I will
facilitated and well presented.
was it was I feel like I'm gonna watch this again and critique it greatly, but
Well, you and
nevertheless,
I talked 100% of the time together.
yeah, this is different. This is a different situation, but,
Exactly.
you know what? We will have to practice these tactics when we interview our very fantastic special guest next
Yes,
week.
yes. So coming
Yes,
soon, we have an amazing guest and looking forward to it.
can't wait. Thanks for your time, Joe. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. See you
See you in a
soon.
fortnight.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye.